that this thing with a funny name started 4 years ago by accident. It started in Florida as an attempt to help a friend. I met a girl that was struggling with drug addiction, depression, self-injury. She had attempted suicide and was denied entry into a treatment center in downtown Orlando. And I ended up spending the next 5 days with some friends and this girl, and got to know her. We stayed up late every night, just kind of getting to know her story and some of the things that had happened to her and decisions that had affected her and decisions that she made in response. And I asked her this really awkward question halfway through, and I just said, hey, what do you think about the possibility of telling this story? And I figured she would say, hey, bad idea, get lost. And instead, she surprised me and said some things I'll never forget. Said she loved the possibility that maybe there could be a purpose for her pain, that maybe someone else could find hope in her story, and maybe someone else could relate to her story. And we talked about the fact that we didn't have the privilege of a happy ending. You know, like we didn't have the privilege of telling it 5 years later or 10 years later. And then we went on to talk about maybe people would actually appreciate that. Maybe people could relate to that because maybe that's the place that most of us live. Maybe most of us live very much in the middle of our stories. And maybe most of us live very aware of some questions, whether they're our own or they belong to our family or our best friend or someone that we care about. Maybe all of us, maybe we don't struggle with self-injury or depression, but maybe we can all relate to pain. You know, maybe we can relate to moments or to seasons when life is difficult. And I have a friend named John Foreman. He sings and plays guitar in a band called Switchfoot. And I was standing next to John, and it was March 2006, and we had just printed 200 T-shirts, and they basically looked like that banner. They had this funny phrase. The phrase was the title of the story that I wrote about this experience. And we printed these T-shirts just to try to raise money around town to pay for our friend's treatment. And John was about to play to 3,000 people at this college in South Florida, and he said, hey man, would it be okay if I wear this on stage? And I just played it really cool and said, yeah, John, it'd be fine. So he goes out and Switchfoot plays to 3,000 people, and halfway through the set, he says, hey, a buddy of mine is working on a project, and it's called To Write Love in Our Arms, and you can find more about it on the internet. And you're thinking, man, that's really generous, that's very gracious. And I'm like on the side thinking that's a really crappy plug, because the internet is a big place. I feel like that'd be like if I met a girl and I wanted to stay in touch with her and I said, hey, I'm Jamie, I live in America. You gotta narrow it down a bit, you know? And yet we live in this day where there's this thing called Google. There's Yahoo too, but mostly there's Google. And so people found their way to this MySpace page that we had made, and this crazy thing happened where I went home late that night and looked at the MySpace, and there were all these messages from people that had been in the room. People sharing things, people asking questions, people saying that they had lost a loved one to suicide, or that suicide was something they had thought about. People talking about maybe being in a difficult season or life being painful. Some people used the word depression. Maybe they understood that word. Other people, maybe they didn't. My friend Chad played the drums in Switchfoot, and he wore the shirt the next night, and he wore it at a show in Jacksonville, and more messages came in. And we heard from people who said, hey, there's someone in my life that I love, and I'm concerned about them. I want to help them, but I don't know how. There's someone that I care about, and I try to help them, but when I do, they just push me away. Do you have any advice? And pretty quickly realized I was in over my head. At the time, I was a college dropout sales rep in the surf industry, and clearly not qualified to be answering these really heavy messages. I just began to do the homework and just began spending time on this Google website as well, trying to begin to be able to point people in the right direction, pointing to resources, pointing to other websites, books, treatment centers, crisis hotlines, suicide prevention hotlines. And basically we realized really quickly we could do more than tell one story, and we could do more than invest in treatment in the life of one person. And these T-shirts kind of took on a life of their own, and all these funny doors kept opening, just these amazing opportunities to talk about these things that maybe a lot of us live with, but very few of us talk about. And basically, if you could fast forward over the last 4.5 years, there's a whole team of us now. It's a 501c3, it's a nonprofit based in Florida. And this small team, has responded to more than 150,000 emails and messages that read the same way as the ones I talked about that first night. And these messages have come in from more than 100 different countries. And so with that, we've learned that maybe these are not American issues, and maybe these are not white people issues, and maybe these are not emo issues. And like some of you giggle and you're not sure if that's okay. And sorry, I giggled that whole thing. And maybe that's because these stereotypes exist, you know. And maybe we're learning that maybe this is part of being human all over the world. No matter what you look like, no matter what music you listen to, what color your t-shirt is, or how you wear your hair, that maybe these are things that people all over our planet can relate to, you know. And I think Lexi's hope, Lexi's heart behind tonight was that you would know that you're not alone, and that you would know that your story matters. And we hopefully, I think there's more people than programs, but we made these programs that we're really excited about. And part of what it does is it points to local resources. You know, we have these phrases that we love to use. I feel like we don't have to convince you that pain is real, but we believe in the face of that, and it's a privilege to say in the face of that we believe hope is real and help is real. And so the resources that we listed, which exist locally, those are meant to be an expression of that. Really to say that if you need help, or if you know someone who needs help, that there's people who live in this community who have given their lives to being part of the solution, you know, to helping us walk through the difficult parts of our story, to helping us move through the times that are tough. And what a cool thing that this girl from your community, from your city, that was her dream, that you could be introduced to that idea. And to be honest, we don't show up tonight to impress you with a TV show or Matt's songs or the story of this charity or my story or even Lexi's story. But I think to me the privilege in the whole thing is just that we get to say that everyone in the room, people sitting in weird places and standing on the side, everyone in the room has a story that matters as much as anyone who stands on this stage, as much as Lexi's, that all of you matter. And the people that you care about, the relationships that are tricky, the relationships that are difficult, the people that you've lost, the stuff you don't know what to do with, the questions you live with, the dreams, your favorite songs, your favorite stuff, that all of it is significant. And I think our hope in closing is that you have people that you get to share that stuff with, the best of it, the worst of it, that there's people who know you, that there's friends that you do life with, that there's a support system that you go back to. And beyond that, beyond community and conversation, we just want to say, you know, we believe in help. You're going to get to hear later on from a friend of mine who's a professional counselor, a guy who we really love and respect, who means a great deal to our organization. And that's my buddy Aaron, but we believe in that. And we know the first step is the hardest step to take. It's the one that most people never take. It's the one where you take that step into getting help, or maybe just putting your hand up and saying, hey, I guess I'm not okay. And maybe that's you, maybe you know someone, maybe that's you a year from now. Maybe remember tonight and know that that's okay, and that you're not alone in those places. And it's a privilege to be here with you guys. So I want to thank, first off, Lexi for making this happen. I think I went way over my 10 minutes, but that'll be okay. But thank you guys. I'm going to bring Ben back up.